Thank you all for joining us. So tonight's webinar is going to be the Connecticut Workers Guide to CT Paid Leave. My name is Amber Forrest, and I'm the Executive Assistant to the Connecticut Paid Leave team. Thank you so much for taking time out of your evening to join us to learn a little bit about the paid leave program. And tonight we're going to talk about what Connecticut Paid Leave is, what the differences between FMLA and Connecticut Paid Leave are, the different qualifying reasons to apply for paid leave and receiving benefits, eligibility, how to apply, additional resources, and then of course we're going to leave some time at the end for Q&A. So first I want to tell you a little bit about Connecticut Paid Leave. CT Paid Leave is responsible for administrating the Connecticut Leave program that includes outreach and engagement, developing the policies and procedures, establishing the trust fund, which is what is going to collect the contributions and hold on to those rates, approve and audit private plans for businesses who are not participating in the state program, and administer claims for paid leave benefits. Employers began deducting contributions from workers on January 1st of 2021, and in December of 2021, contributing workers, sole proprietors, and self-employed individuals began submitting applications for benefits, or could begin. Approved contributing workers, sole proprietors, and self-employed individuals begin receiving benefits for absences resulting from qualifying life or health events on January 1st of 2022. So who is considered a covered employee? Most employers who have one or more people working in Connecticut, which includes nonprofits and private sector employees with a unionized workforce. Sole proprietors and self-employed are also considered covered by Connecticut Paid Leave. Sole proprietors and self-employed individuals may choose to opt out of the paid leave program for themselves. If they opt in, they must remain in the program for a minimum of 3 years. They also contribute half of the 1% of income, just like other workers. A sole proprietor who has employees may choose not to opt in for himself or herself, but they must withhold and remit worker contributions nonetheless. Who is not covered under the Connecticut Paid Leave Plan? Federal government, the state of Connecticut, except as to covered public employees, municipalities, unless they have covered public employees, local or regional boards of education, unless they have covered and public employees, non-public elementary or secondary schools. And other entities that are exempted as a result of other laws are railroad workers, individuals who are employed by the governments of other states, employees of sovereign nations, employees engaged in interstate commerce who work in Connecticut but live in another state and thus don't pay income tax in Connecticut, and spouses of active duty military members who have opted to continue to pay taxes in their home state instead of where they are currently deployed. The following are covered public employees: non-unionized employees of the state of Connecticut, unionized employees of the state of Connecticut who collectively bargain to be included in the program, employees of municipalities, union and non-union, if the unionized employees of the municipality collectively bargain to be included, and employees of local and regional boards of education, union and non-union, if the unionized employees collectively bargain to be included. Municipality means any town, city, borough, school district, regional school district, taxing district, fire district, district department of health, probate district, housing authority, regional workforce development board, regional emergency telecommunication center, tourism district, flood commission, or authority established by a special act or regional council of governments. The Connecticut Paid Leave Authority manages workers' contributions through the employee funded. Your employer should withhold 0.5% of your earnings, and they remit these contributions quarterly. Contributions are post-tax and are based on the wages as calculated for FICA. Contributions are capped at the Social Security limit, and the max contribution amount is $714 a year. What is FMLA and what is Connecticut Paid Leave? They are two completely different laws. FMLA stands for the Family and Medical Leave Act. There is a federal FMLA and a Connecticut FMLA. Both have been around since the 1990s. Both laws allow eligible employees to take job protected time away from work for certain family and medical reasons. Leave taken under FMLA is unpaid. Employers may adopt policies to provide for income replacement during the leave, but they are not required to. Some employers provide paid leave to their employees. Example, continuing to pay their employees their regular pay while out on parental leave. Many employers require or permit employees to use their earned accruals, sick leave, vacation leave, or other PTO while they are out on leave. The Connecticut FMLA changed significantly January 1st, 2022. FMLA provides job protected leave for certain qualifying family and health conditions. Changes to the Connecticut FMLA that may affect you. As of 1/1/2022, CT FMLA applies to companies with one or more employees. Previously, it only applied to companies that had 75 or more employees. To be eligible for Connecticut FMLA, you need to have worked for your employer for at least 3 months. Previously, you had to have worked for your employer for at least 12 months and at least 1,000 hours. An employer may require or permit you to use PTO when taking leave, but they must allow you to retain up to 2 weeks of your PTO for future use. For example, if you're having surgery and you need to be out for 4 weeks and you have 3 weeks of PTO accrued, your employer can require you to use that one of your 3 weeks of PTO, but they must allow you to retain the other 2 weeks for future use. So what is Connecticut Paid Leave? Connecticut Paid, CTPL stands for Connecticut Paid Leave. We use it to refer to the law itself, the program, and the agency that administers the program. The Connecticut Paid Leave Act is a Connecticut law that creates a source of income replacement benefits for eligible employees who cannot work for certain family and medical reasons. It does not provide job protected leave. It is also referred to as PFML, or the Paid Family and Medical Leave. So basically, FMLA offers you job protection, CTPL offers income replacement. So what are the qualifying reasons to apply for leave and receive benefits? For medical leave is taken by a worker to receive treatment or recover from one's own serious health condition. This includes serving as an organ or bone marrow donor and pregnancy. And just a side note, because there has been a huge boost of COVID, since the holidays have come around, so we get this question a lot. Simply being exposed to or diagnosed with COVID is not necessarily a serious health condition. But if having COVID did lead to other extensive serious health conditions, for example, needing extensive treatment for another issue that came from having COVID, that would be a different scenario, but COVID itself is not considered a qualifying reason. Bonding leave. So bonding is the emotional and physical attachment that occurs between the parent and a child. Bonding leave can be taken by a worker, not only for the time physically spent with the newborn or newly placed child, but also the time needed to process adoption or foster care placement if applicable. Moms and dads taking bonding leave may be taken anytime during the first 12 months after the birth or placement of a new child. And this applies to birth, adoption, and or foster care. And then there's caregiver leave. And caregiver leave is taken by a worker to provide physical or psychological care or psychological comfort and reassurance for a family member experiencing a serious health condition. Connecticut has a broad definition of family member, maybe someone related to you by blood or affinity. And I have a bit of delay as I'm trying to go through my slides here, so just bear with me for a moment. Come on. Here we go. Qualifying reasons to apply for leave and receive benefits. Family violence leave. Family violence leave can be taken by a worker who is a victim of family violence, either to seek medical or psychological care, counseling, for injury or disability, to obtain services from victim services or an organization, or to relocate due to such family violence, or to participate in any civil or criminal proceeding related to or resulting from family violence. And this is up to 12 days in a calendar year. Also for qualifying exigency leave, which is taken by a worker to engage in certain activities arising from a spouse, child, or parent that's on federal leave duty or has been notified of impending call or order to federal active duty in the armed forces. And then there's military caregiver leave, which is taken by a worker to care for a covered family member who is a member of the military who has experienced a serious injury or illness that occurred in the line of active duty in the armed forces. Come on, slides. There we go. Special note regarding caregiver leave. Under the Connecticut law, an employee can take caregiver leave and receive paid leave benefits for a parent, spouse, son or daughter of any age, sibling, grandparent, grandchild, or an individual related to the employee by blood or affinity whose close association with the employee shows to be the equivalent of those of a familial relationship. So this basically could be the aunt that you grew up with that was kind of like a mom or kind of like a grandmother that you spent a lot of time with, and now you need to help her out, maybe getting treatment or going to her cancer therapy appointments or something to that effect. And this breaks it down even more. So what exactly does related by affinity mean? So it's any person with whom the employee has a significant personal bond that is like one of the family relationships listed in the statute, regardless of biological or legal relationship. The family relationships listed in the statute are parent, spouse, child, sibling, grandparent, and grandchild. So example one, an aunt or uncle who relies on the employee for unpaid care and has maintained a strong and enduring relationship with the employee, as typically seen between individuals and their parents or grandparents. Example two is an unmarried significant other of the employee with whom the employee maintains a familial spouse-like relationship despite their lack of legal relationship to each other. Eligibility requirements for federal FMLA, which is job protected leave on the federal level, you must be employed by the employer for at least 12 months. So this is just kind of a recap, and worked for at least 1,250 hours in the last 12 months immediately preceding the leave. For Connecticut FMLA, for job protected leave as of January 1st, 2022, and this is here in the state of Connecticut, for job protection, you must be employed by the employer for at least 3 months with a no hours work requirement. And for Connecticut paid leave, which is the income replacement piece, which just began on January 1st, you must have earned at least $2,325 in the highest earning quarter of the first 4 of the past 5 quarters from one or more employers, and are currently employed in Connecticut by a covered employer or was employed by a covered employer during the last 12 weeks immediately preceding leave, or you are a sole proprietor or self-employed and opted into the Connecticut Paid Leave program. And a summary on the length and amount of leave for benefits. For federal FMLA and job protected leave, up to 12 weeks in a 12-month period for all reasons except up to 26 weeks in a 12-month period for military caregiver leave. For Connecticut FMLA, job protected leave as of January 1, 2022 in Connecticut, up to 12 weeks in a 12-month period for all of the reasons except up to 26 weeks in a 12-month period for military caregiver leave, up to 12 days in a calendar year for family violence leave, and the possibility of an additional 2 weeks for incapacitation during pregnancy. And for Connecticut paid leave income replacement benefits as of January 1st, 2022, up to 12 weeks in a 12-month period for all leave reasons, including military caregiver leave. Up to 12 days of the 12 weeks can be used for family violence, and the possibility of an additional 2 weeks for incapacitation during pregnancy. So how do you apply for Connecticut paid leave benefits? The fastest and easiest way to apply is online through our portal, but you may also apply by phone. We have our number here. I'm going to go ahead and leave this slide up for a moment, but you will receive a copy of this deck. So all of this information is going to be in there for you. Using the online portal will also allow you to check the status of your claim, check your payments for your claim, add time to an existing claim, upload your documents, message your case manager, and view your correspondence. Step 1, you're going to create an account with Connecticut Paid Leave. So you're going to go to ctpaidleave.org. When you go there, you're going to find your home button. This is going to be the landing page. It's going to be where you land when you go to ctpaidleave.org. First, you're going to want to sign in. Once you click on sign in on ctpaidleave.org, you'll be redirected to the login.ct.gov. Click on need an account. Sign up now. At the bottom of the page to continue to the process of creating your account. So that's going to be down here. And we tried to make this as easy as possible. So you're going to enter all of the requested information, your name, your email address, phone number, preferred language, confirm your password, and it's going to look like this box over here on the right. I hope you can see this. I know it's kind of small because we have it on a slide here, but it's general, just like you were signing up for any kind of app or anything. They just want your first name, last name, username, password, and how we can get in touch with you via email and phone number. You must use an email address that you have access to. That's going to be very important because this is how you're going to want to get to your correspondence. The next step involves accessing with a verification code that will be emailed to this address. So definitely use an email address that is valid that you can access. And please be sure to follow the password security guidelines because you don't want anybody accessing your information that shouldn't. And you're not able to change your username once created. So choose carefully and write it down for future reference. Just to go over a few things, there are different types of leave. Block leave is a continuous absence for a single qualifying reason. For example, you're having surgery and your doctor says you will need to be out for 3 weeks straight to recover. That would be considered block leave. Then there's reduced schedule. Reduced schedule is a leave schedule that reduces a worker's usual number of working hours per week on hours per day, on hours per work day for a period of time, normally from a full-time schedule to a part-time schedule, basically what you might be considered like light duty. So you would normally work 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, but you're caring for an ill relative. So now you need to be off Tuesdays to care for that person. And then you have, and then you have intermittent leave, which is leave in separate non-consecutive time periods rather than a single span of time for a single qualifying reason. For example, you suffer from migraines and the time you need to take off for the condition is unpredictable, or you have some type of chronic condition that sometimes will hit and can affect you for a day to a couple of days and then, will dissipate and just kind of, again, is unpredictable. That would be intermittent leave. So the application process. So this is what happens once you submit your claim for paid leave benefits. You would submit your claim to AFLAC. So you will provide all your required documentation according to the specific type of leave you're applying for. You would provide your employer with your employment verification form, which the employer must complete and return to AFLAC. AFLAC determines your eligibility using your submitted documentation. They will notify, the AFLAC will notify you if any documents are missing. AFLAC will determine if you are or are not eligible. Not experiencing qualifying reason, you haven't met the earning threshold, whatever the reason may be, they'll let you know. And you may request a reconsideration if for whatever reason you have not been determined eligible. AFLAC then will calculate your benefit amount if you have been determined that you are eligible. Your workers earning minimum wage will receive 95% of their typical, or up to 95% of their typical weekly earnings. Worker earnings more than minimum wage will have a slightly different calculation, but benefit is capped at 60 times the minimum wage. There is a benefit calculator. This can get a little confusing when you're just reading it. There is an estimator online, and you can use that benefit estimator. So if you go to that homepage, go to employees, you can find that benefit estimator there. It doesn't give you an exact number, but it kind of gives you an idea of what you would be looking at. And then AFLAC would issue your benefit payment. You would elect to receive funds via direct deposit to your bank account, or you can receive that on a Visa type debit card. Payments are made 2 weeks in arrears on Tuesdays. And example is if your leave is approved for January 3rd through 7th, your benefits would be paid on January 18th, just for an example. So how much would you receive? If you earn minimum wage, you would receive 95% of your base weekly earnings. For example, if you work 40 hours a week at $13 an hour, your base weekly earnings are $520. You'll receive 95% of that, or $494 per week. If you earn above the minimum wage, the calculation is slightly different. And again, this is where we would refer you to the benefits estimator. And actually, I'd be happy to pull that up. If any of you would like me to, just let me know down in the comments or in the Q&A, and we can pull that up and kind of show you how that works. I'd be happy to go over that. And just a point, if you are also receiving employer-provided PTO, short-term disability, you may not receive more than 100% of your normal weekly earnings. Benefits are capped at 60 times the state minimum wage. So total max weekly benefit would be $780. And you are not eligible for Connecticut paid leave benefits if you are receiving workers' compensation or unemployment. And this is what our benefit estimator looks like. So you would select what your pay frequency is. You can enter what your gross earnings are going to be, the first intended date of your leave, and then you can hit that estimate button. And this kind of gives you a rough idea of what you could receive for benefits. So how does Connecticut paid leave work with employer provided benefits? The employer may require or permit you to use sick time or other paid time while you're off on approved leave, provided that when you're taking leave pursuant to Connecticut FMLA, you must be allowed to retain those 2 weeks of paid time off. If the employer offers a short-term disability policy, the interaction of the short-term disability policy benefit and the Connecticut paid leave benefit depends on the terms of your short-term disability policy. So for scenarios down here, we'll start with scenario 1 on the left. The worker does not receive any employer-provided PTO. So the worker is eligible for a full-time amount of Connecticut paid leave benefit for the full period of their leave. Scenario 2, the worker receives employer-provided PTO equal to the amount of their regular wages for the full time that they are out on leave. So you would not be eligible to receive any CT paid leave benefits because you're already receiving the full amount of your wages from your employer. Scenario 3, the worker receives some employer-provided PTO that is less than their regular pay while on leave. So you would be eligible to receive CT paid leave benefits when your leave begins, but the amount would be reduced to ensure that you're not going to exceed 100% of your income or of what your take home would be. And then the fourth scenario is the worker received employer provided PTO that is equal to your regular pay for a portion of the time while you're out on leave. So you could be eligible to receive the full amount of your weekly Connecticut paid leave benefit, but the payment would not start until you stopped receiving your employer provided paid time off. And again, we're going to be taking questions at the end. So if you have any questions about these, please do utilize the QA feature at the bottom of your screen. We're happy to answer those questions for you. And just some notes for you. If you're trying to figure out what benefits you'll receive from Connecticut paid leave, you should definitely find out from your employer. One, if your employer will require or permit you to use your employer provided paid time off while you're out on leave. Two, whether there are any rules about the use of such time, such as whether you can use sick time during caregiver leave. And three, if your employer offers a short-term disability policy that you've elected to participate in. And if so, whether that policy states that you must exhaust other employer-provided PTO and Connecticut paid leave benefits before accessing the short-term disability benefits, or whether the short-term disability policy will reduce the amount it pays by any Connecticut paid leave benefit, PTO, or similar benefit received. So those are some things you're going to want to ask your employer. And your responsibilities as a worker. So when you're applying for paid leave, once you notify your employer of your need for leave, begin a claim with Connecticut Paid Leave. If you wish to apply online, you'll first need to create an account with CT Paid Leave at ctpaidleave.org. And we kind of went through that process flow. Again, you'll get a copy of this deck, so you'll have kind of your step-to-step guide. Two, your AFLAC case manager will provide you with a list of all the documents that you're going to need to provide based on the type of leave you're asking for, your medical certifications, adoption paperwork, military orders, etc. And you're going to return everything that they need all at the same time in the time frame that they've indicated. Or not all at the same time. Let me rephrase that. Return all of the requested documentation in the time frame in which AFLAC has indicated. And then notify your AFLAC case manager of any changes to your leave, whether or not you've had an extension or you're returning to work sooner than you anticipated, whatever the case may be. And the process for CT FMLA, notify your employer about your need to take time away from work in a timely fashion. 30 days in advance of the leave if it's foreseeable. Like if you know you're planning to have a surgery and you know it's coming up, let your employer know like as soon as possible. Obviously, if heaven forbid you have some kind of accident and you don't know it's coming, that's not possible. But if you know that you're planning on having something, or you have someone that you're going to be caring for and you know that it's coming, let them know as soon as possible. Your employer has 5 days to notify you if your leave is eligible for job protection. This is not the approval, and let you know if they need additional documentation. You have 15 calendar days to provide the required documentation as requested by your employer. That's the medical certification from the doctor, military documents, adoption records, etc. Your employer may provide an additional 15 days if you have trouble obtaining the required documents. Your employer has 5 days from the receipt of all documentation to notify you if your request for job protective leave has been approved. Employers should notify you if you are required to use your PTO accruals, how and when you need to report in during your absence, and if you'll need to provide a fitness for duty before you return. So like a physical from your doctor or something that says that you're fit to return to work. And your employer will track your leave usage to ensure that you don't exceed the 12-week limit. You should notify your employer of any changes to your leave, ability to return earlier if you need to extend it. And upon your return, your employer is to return you to the same job with the same pay and conditions as when you left. Important notes: even when you're approved for Connecticut and/or federal FMLA, you must follow your employer's attendance and call-in policies. And you need to notify your supervisors when you are taking your FMLA leave. You are responsible for providing your employer and the Connecticut Paid Leave Authority if applying for income replacement with complete and sufficient medical certifications. There may be other laws beyond Connecticut FMLA that apply to your situation and can offer job protection. Federal FMLA applies to companies with 50 or more employees. Americans with Disabilities Act applies to companies with 15 or more. Pregnancy Disability Act applies to companies with 3 or more. Connecticut Fair Employment Practices Act applies to companies with 3 or more. Workers' compensation for on-the-job illness injury. This can also provide income replacement benefits. Nope. Even if for some reason you don't want leave to be designated as FMLA leave, in all circumstances, it is the employer's right and responsibility to designate time off that qualifies under FMLA as FMLA leave. And just a few additional resources. We have a YouTube page where we post a ton of helpful videos, how to apply for benefits, navigating the website, a ton of different topics with our webinars. We also have Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter. So please feel free to follow us on all of those for any of our educational opportunities that are coming up. And of course, please visit us on ctpaidleave.org. And we do have an interactive quiz. Are you eligible? So please feel free to check that out. Are you likely to be eligible for paid leave benefits? And you can go through that and see if that applies to you in your situation. And for more information about FMLA, you can visit the ct.gov/DOL website to get more information about the FMLA through the state of Connecticut. Thank you so much for joining us. We know it's late. We appreciate your time. If you have questions, we're here to help. Please do utilize our contact us portal at ctpaidleave.org. We also have hundreds of FAQs available that answer tons of our frequently asked questions. And thank you so much for joining us. We're going to go ahead and open up for some Q&A. I see we have a couple of questions in our QA down here. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And see what kind of questions we have. Hi, Kathy. Do we have some questions over here? Oh, it looks like everybody got their questions answered already. Fabulous. I have such a great team. Fabulous. All right. So I just want to make sure if anybody has any questions, we do still have some time. In the meantime, I do want to let you know we will be offering other webinars. So if you are an employer and you want to offer this webinar to some of your employees, we will be hosting a few more of these as we go through the winter. That information can be found on our website on our calendar of events. So if you go to ctpaidleave.org and go to events, you can see all of the different webinars that we're offering there. We're also offering some for small businesses, which is great for our sole proprietors and self-employed, which sometimes, you know, are also considered workers. So that can be great for them as well. And I don't see any other questions. So for now, I'm just going to say thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it, and have a wonderful night. We'll give you a half hour back to your evening. Thank you. Good night.
Good night.